Welcome to A Women's Brew, where women talk about beer. In today's episode of our Brave Noise interview series, we're joined by Kirsty from Fierce Beer, who dares to be brave and make a noise about their Brave Noise brew. I'm Joanne, and this is Tori.
Hello, hello.
And we're two beer-loving women on a mission to get more people drinking and talking about great beer and making a brave noise. Come join us. Today you're gonna she's starting her beer. Today we have the lovely Kirsty from Fierce Beer. Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So tell us a little bit about you. Tell us wait, we know you're from Fierce, but tell us a little bit about Fierce. Tell us a little bit about Brave Noise from Fierce.
Yeah, okay. So I am joining you as the events and taproom manager. I've only actually been in a brewery position for a few months. I do come from a long history, about 6 years of craft beer bar work. So bartender, manager, assistant manager for Fierce and a previous Aberdeen craft brewery time, but we won't discuss that.
No.
Yeah, that's very tactful. I really like that. That was good.
Yeah, that was really good.
So my experiences do come from other brewery and my time with Fierce. It was actually Beer 52 that we work with, quite a lot, had contacted us and said, yeah, have you seen this cause? Are you aware of the details? Now, we'd really love to do something. You're the first people we thought of. Very simple, very straightforward. Let's get together. And we were like, yeah, we have heard of the cause. We'd love to do something. And it was literally a couple of emails back and forth, very simple, very easy. And it was like, yeah, let's make the beer. And it was great because the beer went out in a subscription box and made it to lots and lots of people. So we were very happy with it.
I genuinely, just hearing you say that, so I think Joe can probably speak more to this in a second, but basically we didn't, when we first started looking at like, okay, there's 10 brews out there and here's going on, Joe was like, I found the first one on Beer 52, it's a Beer 52 collab, like, and we hadn't even realized, and she was ordering something else and she happened to find it and she's like, do you want me to get you a can? I was like, yeah. But I genuinely, what you've just said, that's I think Beer 52 can tend to have like sort of there's a stigma that people like on forums will say about Beer 52, for example, and I think that's really impressive that like they were on the post to be like, have you heard of this? And they approached you for that. And it's just something that any subscription service, like I wouldn't have thought like any beer subscription service would have been like, have you seen this? Let's do a collab. That's just really it's really, really impressive. Like that's what's happened.
Yeah, it was a great way of making a reach far beyond what we probably would have done on our own. By ourselves, yes, we would have hopefully reached all of our supporters, but it maybe would have been unlikely that it would have reached further into England. It probably would have just been more Scotland based, whereas with Beer 52 it reached well beyond people that don't even know Fierce. So we really appreciated them thinking of us and coming to us, because we had followed a lot of the stories, and we were really happy to get involved.
Did you find that you got do you think you got feedback from a wider reach of people about the beer because it went through Beer 52? I'm going totally off a topic now. I'm going off piece now, but that's really interesting that they approached you about it. And do you think you got more interest from people from that way?
Possibly, yes.
Yeah.
Because I think this way it was perceived as, it was seen as the Brave Noise beer. instead of, I think if we had done it ourselves, it would more have ended up coming across as, oh, Fierce Beer have done a beer.
Yeah.
And people would have thought of us more than the cause. Whereas doing it this way and doing it with Beer 52, we didn't overshadow the cause. And we think it was far more likely that by coming in a subscription box, people looked and thought, oh, Brave Noise, that's an interesting name, read the can and thought, oh wait, it's actually for, reason. And it would have pushed more people to actually look into the beer rather than just picking it up, thinking, oh, Fierce have named a beer, Brave Noise. That's an interesting name, drank it, and then just never thought about it again and never even looked into that it was actually a cause and not just a beer.
No, I absolutely. It makes total and complete sense. And it might get into the hands of people that maybe wouldn't have even wouldn't have known about the cause beforehand, and now all of a sudden it's like, cool, who else is doing one? Okay, what's going, like, it's really. And just to rewind, to clarify, when I said like, oh yeah, there's stigmas around beer forums and stuff, I just mean across the grade with like any subscription beer service. Because there's such this push of being like, oh yeah, you don't need subscription services, like that kind of thing. And I think that's what I meant by it, not anything. I just felt like I said that and I was like, just before, let me clarify, I didn't mean anything negative. I just meant, I think that is the stigma that has as like subscription services, and to know that they actually cared enough to be like, actually, I think we can tend to view, or on forums, they tend to view them as this like bigger entity that just doesn't necessarily care, and it's just like, let's just push the beer out. So that's what I mean. It's quite surprising to be like, yeah, okay, cool. I would have never thought a subscription service would have approached the breweries to be like, yeah, let's do this. That's really, for me, that's really interesting, because we've seen that even with a brewery count, it's difficult to, like, some breweries don't even know about it. So for there to be like a subscription box service that's like, yeah, we know about it, we're interested in it, let's do it. It's just really impressive to me.
Yeah, and I mean, it was pretty quick off the bat. I think they contacted us. So I think the beer came out around about December last year, I think I'm right in saying. And it was, a good few months before that, they contacted us and said, like, do you think, are you able to produce the beer in time? Would you manage it if we were to go ahead? So they were pretty quick, in discussing it. It wasn't, I think, it wasn't one of those situations that I think they felt, oh, we better do this. We like need to show that we, one of those, these days, everyone likes to jump on some sort of bandwagon. Whereas they contacted us before really there was, as much talk in the UK.
I know Beer 52 tends to have like a theme around their boxes. Do you remember what the theme was of the box that they put this one in?
I'm not sure. Like I said, I do think it came out in December, which makes me think it was a holiday time
Christmassy
beer. So,
time.
it may have been quite an unusual beer to appear in the box, but
makes it stand out more.
I was going to say that makes it stand out more, doesn't it? And I think that also, if that was the case, obviously we don't know, but if that was the case, it makes it more interesting as well that they were like, actually, let's take one beer away that could be that holiday theme, and let's use it to put this in. And because I mean, like I said, Joe just happened to be going on Beer 52 to order something else, and I was looking
for, and just really interested. We're going completely away from Fizz. We need to come back. We're going to rein this in and come back to Fizz in a minute. But I was on there looking for the Tolakazi Sorghum Pilsner, because I've been following that brewery and Quasar Brew from Rwanda and Tolakazi, I believe, in South Africa. And they, Beer 52 had picked up the Sorghum Pilsner, and I was like, oh, I get to try some of their beer. And while I was on there buying that, which is a woman-owned brewery, then came across the Fierce one, and I was like, these two are perfect. These are all the things that we want to buy. So
yeah, that was I just impressed with that, full
Yeah.
stop. And we're drinking it now, and it is really, really nice. It is really drinkable. And it's a 330ml can, and I'm actually kind of sad because I wish it was like a bigger can.
Yeah.
It is really lovely, 4.6%. So do you know, like, if you don't, that's fine, but do you know, like, did you guys stick to the recipe pretty much to a T? Did you change anything up with it?
Pretty much, we just we added a little Simcoe, just to round out. We were conscious of the beer being very accessible. Like our core range beers, you know, we like our beers to be accessible. Sometimes, you know, we can go quite full on with flavor. We didn't think, you know, an imperial barrel-aged stout would work. So we wanted it to be a beer that just everyone could enjoy. So just a little change, a little add of Simcoe, because we do like Simcoe here at Fierce. So
It is very Moorish.
I feel like a very big moose brave noise would be amazing.
So that's one for next year. You've got to do a second
that's one to work on.
Oh, I know. I mean, I feel like I say this like every time we get to talk to a brewery. It's like some of the, you know, the breweries that have been brewed are Brave Noise, like yourselves and Vault City and like that. I've just been like, ever since the start of lockdown, when I realized you could order beer online, I was ordering from you guys, and I was just like, oh my god, these beers are so amazing. And I'm like, I get to talk to Fierce, this is amazing, but we have to keep it on topic to a Brave Noise because that's what we're here for. But I will say, like, the maple, anything with the maple in it is just like, oh, I had the maple pancake, the imperial one, and it was just like, oh, it was gorgeous. But I mean, I don't know how that would work with like Sabro and all that. That would be maybe a little bit weird with the Brave Noise ingredients in it as well, and maple. But yeah, no, I mean, it's very smooth, very drinkable, and just really, really tasty. So
I suspect that going out to Beer 52 subscribers, like, it's very drinkable. It's gonna, you know, reaching that audience. I think they will have found most people will have found something to enjoy about this beer, and that just adds to getting the message out there, I think.
Well, I think so, yeah. And I guess there's always that risk with, like you say, subscriptions. You don't want anything, maybe say, going out to someone and they quickly look at like, I won't like that, and then they don't even bother trying it. And it goes to like the back of the fridge, never to see light. So I think we knew that, you know, sort of light ABV pale ale, everyone's going to try it. They're going to, you know, give it a try at some point. They'll pick up the can, they'll read the label, and for that, all the better.
When it comes to the brew day, did sort of everyone get involved, or were there certain people that were like nominated to lead it, or, you know, is there anything interesting about the brew day that happened there? Did Beer 52 come down and actually help out on that?
I mean, sadly, I mean, just the Brave Noise beer was made before we moved brewery. I was still in Edinburgh. We were still in a brewery that was far too small for us. Doing this beer would have been around about the time where we were thinking about moving. When the beer came out was when we done our crowdfunder for the new brewery. I'm not 100% sure. I do believe that Beer 52, I think with something being in Edinburgh, I think there was the option they did discuss about maybe coming up. I'm not 100% sure if they did. But yeah, that was back in the small brewery. But hopefully maybe in the future, if we get to do something like this again, we can do something much bigger now we're in the big brewery.
I think that's fairly impressive though, like doing it out of a small brewery, because of the fact that I know like a lot of people are unable to brew it because of the constraints over their side, you know, the scale of their kit and the size of their team as well, and that can be quite a constraint. So I think it's impressive as well that even though you were maybe in a smaller facility, there was still the whole, yeah, okay, let's do this, and still on the scale for it to be distributed through a subscription service is quite impressive. That the fact that you're just like, yep, like completely on board, let's do this. If we're going to do it, let's do it properly sort of thing is I think really admirable and impressive there. So
How is the new brewery, seeing as we've talked about it?
We're getting there. We're already full for a brewery that was like quadruple the size. We're still now squeezing things in and realizing that we now don't have enough room.
Oh no.
But yeah, we're getting there. Yeah, it's going to make things, expansion a lot better. I'm hoping to have our tap room up and running hopefully by October. So then that way we can have lots of people visiting, and open up craft beer in Scotland to as many people as we can.
Amazing.
So you guys supported the Drinks Trust. Was
Yes.
that sort of a when you had to narrow down sort of where you're going, because obviously we know that charities as a whole, you want to support them all and you have to narrow it down. Was there any particular logic that went behind like definitely the Drinks Trust, or was it pretty much everyone all in like, yeah, this is the charity that we want?
Actually, Beer 52 did say to us, like, do you want to go to a particular local charity? Do you have, is there someone particular you want to work with? We went with the Drinks Trust because obviously our brew, we're in Aberdeen, we have an Aberdeen bar, but we also have a bar in Edinburgh, we have a bar in Manchester. So we wanted a charity that supported all three of those, ideally all three of those areas. So really, UK, and in honor of our bars and our bar teams, because a lot of the stories that we hear personally do come from our bar staff and our bar teams. So really this was for them.
That's an amazing reason to do that. Like when we were picking ours, and we say this every time, like there were so many things that we were like, oh, we could do this or we could do that. But finding a charity that can take donations from the sale of alcohol is difficult. But yeah, I think that's like almost doing it for the frontline workers.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, with my own experiences, over the years in bars, yeah, I can say, whereas I certainly don't have the stories that were sort of, that you read about, I can definitely say that they will have been true. I've seen, you see many things, and they do need support in the industry.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I'm hoping at this point nobody's calling into question the stories they're reading and it being a oh well, I don't know about that. I think it's the thing through these conversations that we've had, on the podcast and off the podcast. I think what's come to light is certainly from all the female identifying people that we've spoken to, or LGBTQ plus people that we've spoken to, anyone that's not sort of the majority group within craft beer, they all have some type of story to tell about how they've been treated in a not so great way by people, and it's just the need to do better. So yeah, I mean, I really hope that we're not still at this point I mean, I know there's people always going to question it, but I like to think that hopefully we're heading in the right direction where there's far less people going, oh, I don't know if that happened. But I think it's really a powerful message that you're like, yeah, we spoke to our staff and this is the way, stories come from, the people that we know and it's close to our hearts, and it's, how can we impact the most amount of people in our staff and beyond. And yeah, I mean, the Drinks Trust does some great work, so obviously we'll link Drinks Trust anyways in the show notes. But
are there any particular changes that you want to see in the beer industry and like the beverage industry?
I think we still kind of work in a way where I feel like everyone acts like they're an island. Every brewery is like, they act like they're their own industry, and they view everything that's going on but they think, oh, well, that's not our island, so we don't need to be a part of it. But it's not, particularly within the craft beer industry. It's so intertwined that you do need to realize that things that may go on elsewhere will affect you eventually. They will come around. So if you don't speak up now and become a part of at least the conversation, it will be a detriment in the future. Especially, I think we're seeing a lot, in different industries right now, of people speaking up and taking drastic actions to say the way we're being treated isn't right, and they're working together. So the drinks industry and the craft beer industry in the UK need to work together instead of this kind of like broken up way that we currently are.
Absolutely. I mean, do you think there's steps, like, just from anything you can think of personal experiences you've had or conversations you had, is there anything you think, steps that can be taken, or things that can be done to help do that? Is there anything that Fierce does to sort of help bring in that community with the other breweries or whomever?
I do think within Fierce, I know that these days kind of like referring to your team as kind of family is a bit sort of frowned upon, but we do treat each other like family in the way that we can speak quite openly towards each other, and we all very much care about personal lives and mental health and situations that may be affecting our work life, and we respect that, and that's just by being very open, and we have a lot of sort of strong connections. I'm sure, I don't know if you guys have ever, well, you have met us at festivals before. I believe Fierce always come across as quite approachable. And I think that's the way, because at Fierce, beer is just beer. It's not the be all and end all in the world. So we don't want to gatekeep, we're approachable. And I think being approachable towards people who maybe know everything there is about beer and everything to a person who has ended up at an event because they're with their mates and they've never drank craft beer in their life. We speak to everyone in the same way. And so it is just being more approachable. And I think that makes it easier to talk about all different things.
Yeah, I mean, I can absolutely vouch on the approachableness, because I mean, I've seen Fierce at stands at festivals, but obviously had personal conversations. It's how we connected. I spoke to Dave, and even then, I happened to be working at that festival where I first connected with him, and it was even the nature of like he was there as a guest, because the beer was being served. He was there walking around, and I mean, he made it a point to continually come back and just say, how's the beer pouring? Is everything going okay? Is it, it wasn't his festival. He didn't need to do that. He could have literally just gone, I'm going to go drink my beer over there. It's not my problem to organise.
Yeah.
And he quite literally would come back and he'd go, how's it pouring? Is it pouring all right? And I go, yeah, it's pouring good. And he's like, oh, good. And he was really funny. He was really nice. And he took the time to be like, everything good? And it wasn't like no, it wasn't like, I'm checking on you to make sure you know how to do it. It was like, I just want to make sure that it's all right and there's nothing going wrong, and if you need help with anything, like, let me know. And I was like, he's not even working the festival, and he was still like, if you need help, just give me a shout, or like, if something's not running well, I'll go get one of the guys, we can sort it out. And it was very supportive vibes from a person that absolutely didn't need to be, because it wasn't his responsibility. And it was just really lovely to feel like I genuinely felt like like you said, it was very approachable, and he didn't even have to say anything. It was the aura that he gave off made me feel like there was one point I went, oh, I do think it's a bit warm. I think, and he's like, oh, I think they've turned the chillers off. Let me just go and fix this. And he fixed it. And it was that thing of the aura he had made me feel like I could be honest with him, and I could go, oh, like I didn't just go, oh, because I don't want to look stupid not being able to pour your beer and it's a bit foamy. But I knew that it wasn't just that. I knew it was like oh, I think it's getting a bit warm, let's, you know, fix this situation. But instead of feeling like I couldn't tell him that, I very much felt like, oh, I can be honest and he'll just help me fix the problem and it's totally fine. And it was so warm and inviting and conversational. I was like, oh, it's really good. So the second you said it's about you know, your brewery is like a family and very approachable, I was like, yeah, I after speaking to him for like the first hour, I felt that. And he didn't say anything in particular about that, but
yeah, that sounds exactly like Dave. I remember when I used to be the general manager of our Edinburgh bar. That's how I started with Fierce. We'd had a couple of building problems, and one night when Dave was in the bar visiting, having drinks, a pipe burst in the kitchen.
Oh no.
Water everywhere, and I was so stressed, and like we were all mops and that, and we eventually got it stopped and everything. And afterwards Dave said, do you know, I'm really sorry, Kirsty. I didn't realize how much, you know, everyone kind of turns to you to fix things, but we'll fix that. You know, so he does, not like Dave and Louise all very much appreciate the team, and that's the way we look at everything, really.
I think that's really important in a work environment. Like, you want to be able to do your job well, know that you're kind of supported in what you're doing, and that if there's problems, you are in a, you know, for want of a better word, a safe place to be like, this is a problem, how can we fix it together? Like that's really important in a workspace. And that's really great to hear that Fierce has that already set up within their systems.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it, isn't it? It's, I think people may not realize that things need to be changed if everything's going well, and they're not around when it's not going well to know.
Yeah.
And so it's fostering that environment, isn't it, where you can feel safe and comfortable saying like, this isn't working and we need to change it, and they actually take it seriously, and it's not just dangling a carrot of like, yeah, we'll fix that eventually. It's like okay, yeah, I see you, I hear you, let's go on, let's fix that, let's do something about it. Because I feel like people can't develop and grow in their own career, or, you know, you want good talent to stick around, and in order to get good talent to stick around and develop, like, you have to listen to their feedback, and you have to be willing to change, and you have to be able to have honest conversations and let them know that it's okay to have honest conversations. So yeah, it's nice to know that buying beers from Fierce, just because they taste good, there's also really good people sitting behind it as well, that you're like, oh, like it's always nice that when you know that it's good people, but having someone that's there validate, like, yes, everyone is just as nice as you think they are. It makes it even more rewarding to buy the beer, because I feel like a lot of people at the end of the day, and I don't know if, you know, how either of you feel about it, but I feel like people at the end of the day do want to support good people. When you love a beer and you know that the people are good behind it, it makes you just want to buy even more, because you want to see them succeed. You want to cheer them on and see them succeed. And to do that, you want to help them succeed.
Yeah. And I think we have over 6.5 years now, Fierce have been going. I do think we're building a really strong support, and lots of people who do love our beer and do reach out and tell us about it, which is great.
Yeah, listen, I mean, I remember at the start of lockdown, I'm fairly certain Fierce was the first order that I put in online, because I was like, oh my god, there's, you know, maple pancake ones, there was, you know, cold brew coffee, you know, cinnamon bun, yeah, all these amazing flavors. And I just remember being like, oh my god, I can buy all of them, and it's like so good. And then I just kept like going back to be like, all right, what new stuff is coming out now? So when Joe said like, yeah, they've done a Brave Noise, I was like, yay. Like I was like, that's one more like really good thing that I get to go tick. And it's a brewery that's done Brave Noise. So it's like, you know, that they're following the right steps. Because I think we've talked about it quite a few times, but there's breweries that we know that are doing the right thing based on what we see them put out there, or conversations we have with people that know, that are either in that business or know people that are in that business, and you know they're doing all the right things. And you just go, if you're doing all the right things, why don't you want to shout about it? Why don't you want people to know it by just brewing a beer for it? And there's many different reasons why people choose not to do it, and it's totally understandable reasons why they choose not to. But it's like, for some reason, when you have that brewery that does choose to do it, and it's one that you have been absolutely loving, and you see it, you're like, yay. Like, it almost makes you want to celebrate even more. So, and when it tastes good as well, you're like, yes, it's like triple victory. Not that you ever question it, but it's just that like, yes, amazing. Everything's aligned and it's so good.
Are there any messages that you want to give to breweries who are considering doing Brave Noise but haven't done it yet?
I mean, I was quite surprised to see that I think there's only ourselves and Vault City in Scotland at the moment who've taken part. And like you said, I'm sure that, you know, breweries will have lots of reasons. I can't reiterate enough how easy it is to go through the process. It is very simple. So don't let that scare you off. But I would just really suggest that if you're a brewery, or you work in a bar, or you work within the craft beer industry, and you haven't considered much about it, I do think sit down with your team, have a beer, and have an honest discussion about it. Let everyone voice their opinions, their own experiences around the whole, the whole sort of situation around the Brave Noise beer and everything that led up to it, and move from there. Because I'm just not really sure how many places have maybe just said, we're fine, and then they've just drawn a line under it, but haven't actually talked about it.
Yeah, undoubtedly there'll be people in those teams that have had experiences that they've not talked about, or it's not been the right venue or time to have that conversation, and people are like, well, actually, I was affected by XYZ, and actually this is important because it affects all of us. Like, that's a really good point and a really good way, I think, to get teams thinking about why this is important to them.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think you need to worry so much. I don't know if people worry that if they get involved, it might go wrong.
Yeah.
But I think we've had that conversation with people before, not the conversation with the breweries, but we've in past, we've tried brainstorming with numerous different people. I said on podcasts, off podcasts, like, you know, what might be stopping people from getting involved? And some of what was raised was the potential. Now, obviously, we don't know if anyone does feel this way or not, but the potential that, like, maybe they get involved and they brew this beer, and then someone comes out and says, I actually had a really bad experience at your bar, or, you know, I worked there and I had a really bad experience and no one did anything, and nobody cared. And, you know, that's understandable. Like, if that person goes, oh, what if I didn't know about that? And I'm afraid that that's going to come out and it's just going to make it look really negative or something. And I think it's kind of like, if they approach it in the way that you said, of like, sit down with your staff, have that conversation and take it seriously and vow to do better, and use this beer as a way to say, like, maybe in the past we've not done the best we could do. We promise that's changing. We're going to do better. We've got this code of conduct. We are not going to allow anything to go unnoticed anymore. It's getting in front of it and not just going, yeah, we don't have a problem here. But I don't think anyone before has sort of came up with the idea of what you said of like, sit down with your staff if you're not sure about it and have that conversation. I think that is such a big, important piece. Did anyone at Fierce sit down and say, like, let's have a conversation about this, or do people feel pretty comfortable just coming up saying, I had, not necessarily in the company, but with somebody coming up and ordering a drink and maybe they're not appropriate? Like, do people feel comfortable, I guess, to go and say, yeah, I need support from somebody?
I think within Fierce, we do just actually have, unlike other breweries, we actually have quite a lot of women, especially high up. Obviously, we have Louise Grant. Hazel is our operations manager. Two of our main brewers are female, everything. So we do actually have quite approachable, like Dave and I are very approachable in themselves as well. But I mean, sometimes some situations, let's be honest, you do prefer to speak to a woman. And we just happen to have that situation already in place. Louise particularly is very caring over the well-being of staff, and is in lots of contact. So we do have a very comfortable situation, whereas, you know, if there was something that happened, you could quite easily, if you wanted to, you could drop her a message, you could give her a phone. So we already have a very comfortable situation. We are lucky to have that. Some other breweries might just by chance be more heavy male staff, and they may be approachable, they may not be. Maybe people don't find them approachable. So we are lucky that we have a very approachable team, but that doesn't mean that other breweries can't make themselves more approachable.
Yeah, that's really true.
Because that's a very valid point. Like, they might not even know that they might think that they don't have a problem, and because they've never asked the question of like, do people feel they have the right setup in place, and that they feel they have, even doing things like in our work. I mean, I don't work, my day job is in IT, it's not in beer at all. And we even have pulse surveys that go out every so often that just go like, do you have somebody in the business that you feel you could, you know, raise problems to? Like, do you feel that you have a good friend in the business who you can speak to if you're having concerns or anything like that? And it's taken the time to get feedback from your staff like that, because they might have no idea that maybe people go, oh, I don't feel I have anyone that I can go to, not because the staff aren't friendly, not because the staff aren't nice, not even because they're not approachable. They might be very approachable, but there are some things that are very intimate things that could come up, that maybe you just go, it doesn't matter how approachable this person is, if I don't have a person that I feel I can tell this very intimate thing to, it could then just go completely unnoticed. So I think, yeah, that's a really, really good point about that.
I think if you've been in a difficult position, you've had something happen within the workplace, within a bar, you're already the person with lots of different sort of emotions, and having to be also that person to have to then take the step to fix it and to highlight it is really difficult. So it's just important to always remind the people that you work with, hey, I'm here. Do you ever want to talk? Anything ever happens, you know, please come to me. And you just always have to reiterate that and remind people, because otherwise that is how things kind of fall through the cracks, and you will find out at a lot later date that some of these things happened.
Yeah, that's really true.
I mean, is there anything else you wanted to sort of talk about in particular? I mean, that's all the questions that we had, but totally happy to talk about, like, if there's anything else that you that you think is really valid, that you want to make sure gets raised or discussed, like feel free to shout about it now, to be honest. Or anything you want to shout out, you know, Fierce for doing right that you think other breweries could, you know, copy and do right. I mean, I think you've already said a whole bunch of really good things that other breweries could, you know, listen to and go, oh, we never thought about that, I'd take that on board. But anything else you want to talk about in that vein?
For us, at Fierce, it's really important that we don't gatekeep beer. Beer is meant to be a fun thing. It's a social thing. It's meant to bring people together. So that's what we follow. And whenever things go wrong and we're stressed, someone always kind of turns and says, yeah, but it's just beer. And we laugh and we move forward and we work towards a solution. So it is just beer. There are more important things in life. So let's just enjoy it and be respectful towards each other.
Definitely some of the most fun beers I think I've had have come from Fierce. So you're definitely the fun brewery.
Good.
There's such a range as well, like talking about the approachable stuff. Like you have stuff that could be like really sessionable, and then you have like it just ranges from like really sessionable to really like interesting fun flavors, and then to like funky stuff as well. And you're just like, oh, there's just such a range. Like I know I can place an order and I can go, I want to get a range of all different kinds of stuff, and there's so much there. And then I think this was I'm not gonna lie, this Fierce Teku I think was my first proper beer glass purchase, at least over here.
I've definitely had this one for a while. I was thinking when I got it out of the cupboard, I was like, oh, I've had this one a long time.
It was definitely my first Teku purchase, because I was like, I love it. And I really wanted, you guys had a flight that had the hop, it was like the hop character shape, and it had stuff, and I really wanted to buy it, and I finally was like, yes, I'm gonna do it this month, and it was sold out, and I was like, no. But yes, you guys were my first Teku purchase. I went with that instead, and I was like, I don't have a Teku yet, so I'm gonna get it, and I want everyone to know that I love this. So it was a good purchase. So
we don't actually use those Tekus anymore, so they are sought after glassware, so they are protecting with your life.
Now this is like stressful.
No, I don't want it to break now. I've got to be careful with it.
No, I use it a lot as well. So I'm like, oh god, it's gonna be extra hand wash only, like don't and make sure it's placed on a very flat surface. But yeah, no, thank you so much for your time.
It's been amazing.
It's been a really good conversation, and I think that there's definitely going to be stuff that other breweries can listen to, or just members of the community can listen to and take away from this and apply to the people in their immediate circle. So thank you for the time.
Definitely some
thank
amazing
you for having
insights.
me. And certainly if this does kind of spark interest for anyone to make a beer, they can certainly contact us at Fierce if they want any advice or they want to know anything about the process. You know, we're more than happy to support others wanting to make a beer as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
It's one big community, and it's only
exactly.
beer. It's only beer. It's not
not
a contest. It's not a contest. It's support everyone and make a good beer. So
amazing. Thank you so much.
I'm still surprised that it was like Beer 52's that in the sense of like they've approached about this, because again, it's nothing to do with Beer 52. It's the fact that you see so many breweries that are not doing this initiative for whatever their reasons aside, that you think like a subscription service, this would maybe not even be on their minds as something. And so the fact that they felt that strongly about it, that they were like, hey, we want to do this with you. And that is really impressive.
It just goes to show, like we keep saying, you don't have to be a brewery. You could be a tap room. You could be, a venue. You could be beer adjacent. You could be a beer subscription service, and you can still find a way to make a brave noise.
You can still get involved, and
Yeah.
you could be like, we actually care about this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I felt like I felt like I had to just say that was surprising, because it genuine reaction of like, if you told me any other beer subscription service did it as well, I would be equally like, whoa, like it's a area that doesn't necessarily have to get involved, because if you think about it, they deal with people, but they deal with people via, internet orders and stuff like that. It's not even like an in-person thing where they have to worry about their bar being, people being treated a certain way in their bar. So it was really interesting. It was really enlightening, and Kirsty had some really, really valid points.
She had some really good points. If you had the Beer 52 subscription and you got the Fierce Brave Noise in it, tell us how that made you feel. What did it make you think about, and what other beers were with it? I'm intrigued to know how this was sent out, because we bought ours just from the Beer 52 web shop, because I was also looking for the Tolakazi beer. But yes, I didn't get it in the set. But how did that play out? If you were one of those subscribers, let us know. Kirsty had some really interesting points to make there, and I think that's really indicative of her like bar experience, and that's really good that we've got that in our Brave Noise bank now, having that perspective in there, because we've got the breweries doing it, but we've got to remember the bar staff as well. Like, a lot of the stories that came out that caused Brave Noise to come about are from people that work in bars. They're the frontline people. They are unfortunately the ones that have to deal with a lot of the idiots. So, her experience, her perspective on that is really valuable, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, there's that. What's in our bank now as well is when we talk to other people, we have these, because we do. I wonder if people think that we just have these conversations on the podcast. We don't go out and have these conversations in the real world. Like, I've messaged group chats that we're in being like, I found a way to talk to somebody completely random about Brave Noise today. Like, really excited to get to tell. Like, I managed to go to a coffee shop and find a way to loop in. It started with Girls Who Grind. This is the evolution of it. It started with Girls Who Grind coffee, because they were used in that, and I talked to them about how amazing that was. And then I had a brewery top on. They asked about that, and that's when I linked in Girls Who Grind. It's like the however many steps away from Kevin Bacon. This is what's happening.
7 degrees from Kevin Bacon.
7 degrees from Kevin Bacon.
How many degrees are we away from Brave Noise?
It was like Girls Who Grind, who was used for the International Women's Collaboration Brew Day of a jumper that I was wearing, of a brewery of the jumper that I was wearing. And then we managed to talk our way around that. And I was like, I'm going to use this opportunity to talk about Brave Noise. So that was like, 3 steps away from Brave Noise on that. So I had that conversation. I mean, I have these conversations with people out in the real world when I can, because they're interesting conversations, thought-provoking conversations, they're necessary conversations. Sometimes they're difficult conversations. But if you don't have those conversations, you don't learn, you don't grow. So I like having those conversations, and having some of Kirsty's perspective and some of the suggestions she had, and what they do at Fierce and what other breweries could do, are things that I can then take away, you can then take away, anybody can then take away, and have conversations in the real world with people who go, maybe you speak to somebody that works at a brewery and goes, oh yeah, we thought about doing that, but, and some of the people we're talking to are giving us that sort of information to go back and say, well, okay, yeah, but have you thought about this? Or have you approached it like that? And it can be really, really good thought-provoking stuff. So I think that was a really, really good conversation.
Yeah. Our Brave Noise toolkit is growing.
But I really do want to hear about what box this one came in. You're right. Yeah. I want to hear about if somebody got this in a box and maybe they didn't know what Brave Noise was at all, and you took that out of the box. What did you think?
Yeah.
Like, what was give us your first-hand experiences, because I am definitely and what else was in the box? I'm intrigued.
Yeah, what else is in that box? Otherwise I'm gonna have to go and like Google it. Go find out. That might be Google. That'd be like a lot of, I feel like that would be a lot of work.
Don't make me do the work. Everyone should do the work all the time.
This is not the kind of work that we want to do. We don't want to be wasting our time Googling about what was in the Beer 52 box. We want to be doing the work about getting Brave Noise out there. far more
Absolutely.
valuable use of our time.
Absolutely.
Anyway, if Tory Pal, someone had this beer in their Beer 52 box and they can tell you what beers were with it, how can they get hold of you?
Yeah, please tell me about this one. I mean, I'm definitely intrigued. And if you also want to just be jealous of my now
Apparently, I'll
collector's
sort
item
after.
Echo, you can find me on Instagram at adventures_in_optimism. You can email me at adventuresinoptimism@gmail.com. I'm on TikTok.
She is.
Some form of Adventures in Optimism. Maybe I'll be on there, maybe I won't. I'm 50-50 with
I
it.
feel like you need to do a TikTok with your fierce beer glass now.
Yeah, and be like, I need to find something that's like a trophy, like some type of trophy themed one, and I'll be like, it's a collector's item. Yeah, I'm on there sometimes. That's kind of it. Or you can send an email to the podcast at awomensbrewpodcast@gmail.com, and I will probably pick that up. So
She will.
that's me, Joe. If you want to, if people want to tell you about their first-hand experiences,
please tell me about your first-hand experiences of trying the Fierce Brave Noise beer. I want to know. You can find me at my beer school, which is Love Beer Learning, and we are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Pinterest. I'm mostly on Instagram and sometimes on TikTok, but try all the places. You'll find me eventually. If you can't find me there, I have a website, which is lovebeerlearning.co.uk, and I have an email address, which is lovebeerlearning@gmail.com. You can also, of course, find the podcast on YouTube. If you want to see our sought after fierce beer techie glasses, and also we are on Instagram as A Woman's Brew. Come find us there.
Tag us in your flight board that I didn't manage to get, and so that I'll be like, you'll be jealous of my teku.
Yeah.
I'll be jealous of your
the
flight board that you managed to get and I didn't. So
Yeah.
it'll be a fair
with
trade-off.
the little mini craft masters.
I loved it so much, and I was finally ready. I finally convinced myself
So
and
sad.
worked myself up to get it. It was gone.
Yeah. So sad. Anyway, on that note, cheers with our fierce glasses.
Cheers with our fierce beers.